Hi, everybody. So I guess it's been a long time for me ever since I did this. I guess it was in January that I recorded lots of episodes, and then all of a sudden I didn't do anything for a whole month. And now we're back. And I have one of those guests I'm always talking about. So we've never seen each other before, and we just decided to do this, and that's that, right? So we have been friends now for 28 minutes exactly. And we now know each other pretty well, right? So this is William, and this is pretty much all I know about him, except that he has young children, he lives in a small town, and he's created two companies. But we didn't get into any specifics because, as you know, I like leaving things for the podcast so that I really am genuinely surprised. So that's my technique, right? Not to know anything, just so that everything is new. And then I don't make like, oh my God, that's great. And then already know
Yeah,
that. So
keep it natural.
yeah, so that's the story. So thank you so much, William. We're going to get each other, we're going to get to know each other as we record the episode. That's one of my ways of doing it. Everybody already knows if you've seen it. Talking about seeing it and liking it or not liking it, just leave your comments, your thumbs up, whatever you feel like doing, because it's really cool to know if episodes make sense to you. It would be great if you could also hit the subscribe button, but you already know all that spiel, right? So let's go and figure out who our guest is. So, Will, who is Will if you have to describe yourself in just a few words? I know
Oh,
you just told me that you're trying to be a YouTuber these days and all of that. So let's practice
not
all of
yet.
these skills.
No, not yet. I'm thinking about
Let's
being doing
practice
some
all of these
content.
skills as if it was your first
Um,
video, because it is.
well, I'd say I'm a Franco-British entrepreneur, and a father of two. That would be the shortest description.
Okay.
My mum is French. My father is
Oh,
British from Yorkshire. Actually, he was born in Australia. And they
okay.
met in France on an archaeological dig.
Oh,
They moved to Australia to go and work with my grandfather's textile company. I
uh-huh.
was born in Melbourne, and when I was two, they decided to go back and move to France. My father's French was terrible, but still managed to make his way in the French system. And he's an entrepreneur, so he started his own textile business. Yeah, that's pretty much. So my childhood has been in France, a very small village of Vito. It's close to Monet's Gardens, so the Normandy. So very beautiful countryside, and it was great childhood. Spend my time building cabins in the forest and having a great time.
So
So
I'm always curious about how languages got into people's lives, but I guess
well, I was born in languages, yes. That
exactly.
was quite funny. So my father would be speaking to my mum in French, and she'll be replying in. No, sorry, he'll be speaking to her in English, and she'll be replying in French. Now they do that only when they argue. It's quite funny. You know who's right in the or who's right in the argument because so if my mum is right, my dad will be speaking to her in French, and she'll be screaming to him in French. And if she's apologizing, she'll be speaking to him in English, and he'll be replying in English. So
Wow, I love it.
whoever's right, you have to use their language.
Oh, I like this. I
Yeah,
had never heard of this, but sounds like a great idea.
yeah,
So that just happened to you without you having to do anything, and that's that,
that's
right?
that
So,
pretty
but how
much.
did they do it? Well, was it like the rule that my friends in the States, a lot of them had, husbands from one place, wives from other places, and people were in the States, so none of them were English speakers. And so one of my friends, Susan Howard, she's called Susan Howard, but she's Brazilian.
Yeah,
But her father is American, but she was born and raised in Brazil, and her husband was French, and she was Brazilian, and the kid was going to an American school, and so he kind of had a bit of an idea that a person X would talk to him in X
yeah.
language, right? So it would be this way. So that would be a lot of fun. So of course, for me, it was to speak in Portuguese. So that would be cool. And so, how did your parents manage that part? Or they
Well,
didn't?
for the children, you mean like teaching
Yeah,
us the language? So
yeah,
we
their
we
own
learned
languages.
we learned French first, and my father was getting slightly frustrated because we he would speak to us in English and we would reply in French. So he sent us to, that was quite funny. Every year, every summer, he'd send us to an English holiday camp in England
Okay.
and we'd come back to it, absolutely bilingual, speaking to him in the car in English for 2 weeks, and then we'd revert automatically back to French. And he'd be like, "No, I
Wow.
wasted all that money." And every year he did it over and over again. But I ended up traveling quite a fair amount, spending time with my grandmother in England. I became bilingual quite quickly, even if I've got this French twang at the back. It's always hard to get rid of the French accent. Uh, a lot of people think I'm South African for some reason. I've never been there.
Yeah, you really don't sound British to me.
No, no. And the accent changes depending on my mood too.
Yeah.
So I grew up I went to high school in France, and around 18, I was not great. I kind of failed my baccalaureate and was in a bit of an argument, as you are as a teenager. You're not sure what you're going to do with your life. And my father said, well, how about you move to Australia and go and spend some time there and find out your feet and discover yourself a bit. So I moved there when I was
Wow.
18, moved with my aunt, and decided to go work, discover the workforce. And I'd become a door-to-door salesman for Vodafone. And I was going back in
Well,
the
that's the
outback.
hardest job,
It
I
was,
suppose.
funny enough, I really loved it. We were all very young people chucked in a van, driven out in the outback of Australia in very small towns and knocking on random doors, trying to sell them Vodafone contracts. And you never knew who would open the door. And in villages like that, you've had some really particular people, some really strange cases. And I became really good at it. I mean, and the problem was there was no basic salary. It was
Hmm. So
you
you were like an
earn.
entrepreneur somehow because you only.
It was just commission based. So if you
Yeah.
didn't sell anything, you didn't make any money. And being hungry is a really good motivation. So after a month or two, I became really quick, quite good at it, and getting sales in. Um, but I got a bit tired of this, and I decided to prove my parents wrong, show them that I could actually get my A levels. So I registered as an adult in a university to pass my A levels, got them
Hmm.
with good distinction. And they didn't believe me when I sent them the results. They said, "No, it's a lie. You never got it." Anyway, I stayed in Australia for 3 years. Really enjoyed it. Mostly kind of random sales jobs. Nothing incredible. Just being a young person, having a really good time, making great friends. And my mum got ill. She's better now. But I decided to come back to Europe, and
Hmm.
I didn't want to go back to France. So I gave the UK a go, and I haven't moved out. So I moved to Kent, which is in the southeast of England, for those who don't know. It's a beautiful part of England. It's called the Garden of England. It's very green. And I started working for odd jobs again, and I got an offer to work in London. So I worked in London in property, and again, sales job. That didn't last too long. That's when I decided I wanted to go to university and learn politics and international relations, because I've always been interested in international affairs and what's going on around the world. And I thought, why not? So I went to university for 3 years back in Canterbury. And during my studies, I did a lot of travel to Latin America. I did quite a few charity works in Ecuador, in Colombia. I absolutely loved it. I love Latin America so much that I mean, Colombia is one of my favorite countries. It's got a bad rep.
Yes, I've been there and I was
It's got
I
such a
almost
bad,
didn't leave.
yeah, it's got such a bad reputation. It's beautiful. You got everything: mountains, sea, Caribbean. You got everything is there. And I think I must have been there 6 or 7 times by now. By far, if you haven't been to Colombia, go to Colombia. You won't regret it.
That's what I say to everyone. I'm
Beautiful
with you on
food,
there.
great people, great music. Do
Yep.
not rent a car and do not drive in Colombia. It's the most dangerous thing you'll ever do in your life.
Ride those buses, right? They're very colorful
Take
and
the buses,
interesting.
take the bus. I rented a car once and I really thought my life was going to be over. It's insane.
Yeah.
Anyway, finished my degree, and decided that I wanted to have my own charity or work in charity work or
Oh.
NGOs. Um, but to do that, maybe the best way was for me to create capital and have some money and be able to invest in these things. Because what happened when I was working in Ecuador, I realized that those who were getting the paid jobs were often the children of big donors. So as much as I was working there and for free, doing my best to try to get that paid job, when it was offered, it was always given to somebody's
Yeah.
children. So I thought, okay, then, well, will go and make money, and so I can go and get involved in projects that are close to my heart.
Uh-huh.
And I found
So what
this.
kind of charities were you interested in back then?
That was conservation, the one I was working in Ecuador. It was in
Mm.
the rainforest called Intag. It's in the Andes Mountains, and they were creating micro hydroelectric plants. So it's an area with loads of gold and copper. And the problem is,
Oh,
mining companies were pulling the ground out, and all this
of
heavy
course.
soil with heavy metals was going down the rivers, and it was killing absolutely everything. Um, so they thought, and they're still doing it actually, it worked, that if they produce energy from all the water streams in these mountains, with very low impact on, and actually created wealth from the natural beauty of the area, they it would give an incentive not to destroy it.
Mm.
So it works. So they create all these hydroelectric plants, or bringing electricity, energy, and jobs for the area, and
Okay.
protected it from mining. Because
Mm.
if you were mining the area, you'd be destroying the hydroelectric plants, which had a massive value now. So it's the idea behind it was creating. Obviously, you could say nature is priceless, but giving it a kind of economical value would bring protection to it. So
Mm-hmm.
it was a brilliant project. The issue is I didn't speak any Spanish. I was terrible at Spanish at school, absolutely terrible, and I had to call all these local municipal politicians and try to get them involved. And every time I called with my broker, I used to write, the text on the paper and grab the phone and start speaking, and they just hang up the phone on me. So I had to travel vast distances across these mountains to go there and actually meet them in person and try to get them to get involved. It was brilliant. I learned more Spanish than I ever did in my life in 3 months. So yeah, great experience. So anyway, I flew back,
Mm-hmm.
finished my degree, and then decided to get back to work. I was not interested in staying for the masters and the PhD. I mean, I think that's as much as academic work as I could do myself. I've always loved working, so I got an offer to work for this translation company called
Hmm.
CPW, and they were financial translation company, specials in banking, asset management, and so forth.
Right.
And they were opening an office in London. Little did I know that I was going to be the only employee they had in London, and I was going to be responsible for absolutely everything.
Everything.
And the job was supposed to be just salesperson calling banks and asset
Okay.
management. And I was in a small apartment all by myself all year round. Um, and I never worked in translation services. I knew nothing about the financial services. So the first thing I did was take a subscription to the Financial Times and try to understand banking and asset management. Because if you, and I'm only 26 at the time, and I'm there learning everything about derivatives, the market, and so I can have conversations with my clients, pretending I know what they're
I
doing.
love it.
And understand the translation industry too. So it was a very, very fast learning curve of understanding, especially something so technical as financial translation and
Mm.
the necessary of, we were talking earlier before the podcast about cultures,
Yeah.
um, because a financial concept might be explained easily in English because the local people are familiar with it, like
Yeah.
ETFs, when ETFs came out, for instance. But in France, it was not that spread out then. So you had to do a bit more explanation. So the translator had to do more
Yeah.
work. So you have to be able to explain that to the client, that, you can't just sell your marketing material the same way as you would in England. It was brilliant. I befriended Nadia, who was the sales director in France. And during my time in London, I moved this small office that was only me to an office with 4 to 5 people.
But you were not doing the actual translation.
No, 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 no.
Ah,
I was doing
now
all.
I was worried about
I
that.
was doing the sales, the project
Everything
management,
else.
the a lot of the accounting, and hiring, finding, yeah, quite a fair amount. and so yeah, I befriended Nadia in France, and after 2 years, I told Nadia, well, how about there's a need there for a translation company in finance that's more focused on marketing and communication content, who understands cultural differences and understand what the clients really need, rather than just going there going, yes, we'll do it for a cheap price, we'll get you there. More of a consultancy, really.
Mhm.
And it took a while to convince her to take the leap, because obviously it's always scary to start something. And I've never had a company either. And we're there going, we're going to do a company selling to big banks and asset management. I mean, it's not for a first business. is really going out there. And so we did. And we were very lucky that 2 or 3 of our contacts decided to use us instantly as we started. And we built a company. I lived in Canterbury. Nadia was in Paris. I built a company from my kitchen. We moved from the kitchen to a shared office, a kind of co-working space. We
Yeah.
had our first employee join us. We suddenly had an office, and then we grew to 5, 6 members of staff.
Okay,
it
that's
was fun.
cool.
It was fantastic. We had a really good time.
Uh-huh.
The projects was good. A bit like you, we did a mixed match of things. We did subtitling. We had a few voiceover projects, a lot of graphic design, and then the pandemic hit us.
Mhm.
And that was diabolical, because obviously the stock market crashed, and the first thing that went out of the window of spending from banking and asset management firms was marketing and translations. We
Mhm.
need to cut, cut, cut. So we survived the wave. We always almost thought we were going to sell, but we managed to crawl out of it and get back into growth. Now, in late 2023, the first LLM came out, ChatGPT, and I
Mhm.
thought, ooh, that that's not great. That's not good. Especially we're a human uh, translation company. We refuse to use machine translation at all cost. The reason is because we did more copywriting. That's what how I was presenting it to our clients. To
Mhm.
really adapting your content. There's not literal translation. There's more
Mhm.
transcreation. And I thought the problem here is not necessarily that the translations are going to be good, is that it's free. And the problem with free isn't we're not even competing here, because so we used to get quite a few walk-ins of people needing certified translations. So I don't know if for people who don't know, certified translations are needed for visa application, you're going to university, and for all the Anglosphere countries like Ireland, USA, Canada, Australia, England, it's all pretty standard. It's the translator certifies the translation. So they got different guidelines, but it's pretty much the same. In France and Portugal is probably the same. Spain, Mexico, any Latin really based country, it's the translator is sworn by the court and gets a license allowing him.
Not in Portugal.
Sorry,
Not in Portugal.
no, in Portugal.
No.
So I don't,
Those, the other ones you mentioned, I believe so, but in Portugal, no.
how is it in Portugal then?
Well, as far as I know, it's you can only certify your signature as the translator. So you can only certify that you are the person who did the translation. Basically, you're
Aha.
responsible for it. So you go to a notary and you sign your
Okay.
translation in front of them. So it's a bit
So
different.
is you get an affidavit then?
It's more that than you as a person being certified for being able to perform something.
Oh,
So
so
it's not
it's
like that.
similar, but you need the notary to say I was present during the signature, kind of thing.
Yes, but we people are not certified in any possible way.
Okay,
Yeah.
right.
So we
Well,
don't have one of those. I know that in Brazil they have a specific stamp, they have
that's
all of
it.
this. So no, we don't have that.
In Italy, the translator has to go to the court and get a legal stamp on it.
Mm.
So I used to get quite a few of these people coming into the office, and the problem with these documents is that they often old scanned birth certificates, and you
Yes.
you need to do the transcription first to turn into a digital format. And I
Hmm.
was wondering how other companies were charging for this, and so I went online, and I realized they were charging per page,
Hmm.
with a small kind of disclaimer going maximum 250 words. And I thought, well, hold on here. How do you know this? How's the client going to know this 250 words? So people are uploading the documents, paying, and then they're being contacted
Mm,
to pay more. And I thought, well, let's look at the technologies that are out there. And obviously, there's LLMs, but there's also machine vision. So Google Lens and things like that, which are amazing tools. I mean, now they're used by blind people to, they can put their phone up and it will tell them this sign is telling you to turn left for this town and so
mhm,
forth. So I started testing with this, and the accuracy is incredible. I mean, I remember the old time of the OCR where you'd scan a document and try to turn a PDF into a Word doc, and it'd be chaotic. And
mhm,
this technology is just really accurate at bringing the text out. So I started playing around, and I created a rough model that could provide an accurate word count, provide us a correct transcription, even of written text, and so we could provide a per word quote to these people. Um, so I contacted another friend of mine called Jerome, who's I've known him since we were 6 years old. He's an amazing web developer, and I told him, well, I've got this idea. No one is doing it yet, and I would you like to come and do it with me? And it took 3 months of convincing, because good friends don't do good business. Don't mix family and friends and business and so forth. So, we had to really put things square and really have a long chat about it. And he started working on it in June 2023. And by November 2023, we had the first working model.
mhm,
2023, well, what did we? Yes. Um, and the problem is, so arriving in 2024, thank God I started this company, because I thought we'd been protected from the entire AI. Pilcrow was protected. So Pilcrow is a financial translation company I created. I thought we were protected from AI, because it seems our clients kept coming. We had a fantastic year for 2023, but come 2024, they all left all at the same time.
wow.
So the financial services always seems to be 1 year late compared to other industries, because I spoke to other translators in other sectors, and they really got hit in 2023. We didn't until 2024. And suddenly I'm there thinking, well, great, I'm going to have two successful companies. And Pilco was going to be investing into Certling so we can grow it. And
Mhm,
suddenly we had Pilco going down. I just bought a house and had mortgage payments to pay, and new boy being born, and suddenly no income. So I had to make my staff redundant one after another, and all our staff just totally, all our clients totally disappeared except a handful. Every new contract we were applying for always said, "What AI are you able to provide us?" And I went, "Well, none.
mhm,
We're a special consultant. We can't do things for free." So I put all my effort into Certling. The issue is we had zero investment, so I had to learn everything from the ground up. I've never done an online business. It's fully online. There's no calling
mhm,
people, and it's fully B2C. So we had to make people find us. And incredibly enough, I did a few posts on Reddit. I don't know if people know Reddit. It's kind of a forum where you talk about absolutely anything and everything. And I put it out there, and it did word of mouth. People went, "Oh my God, it's great! I can." There's options there where you can actually remove content too on the platform. Anyway, I'm not going to brag about it too much, but it allows people to finally pay the fair price for the documents, right?
mhm,
And when you're doing a visa, getting a visa for the UK, for the US, it's so stressful. The paperwork is insane, and the costs have exploded. Visa for the UK is now insanely expensive. So if you can, save where you can, and not get destroyed by insane migration costs, especially on translation, it's a massive bonus. So yeah, so Certling is kind of, I'm really excited. I'm trying to do videos, explain to people, but I had to learn digital marketing. I had to learn SEO. I had to write a lot of content and try to make myself appear. I suppose you've got quite a fair amount of expertise with that, with your podcast and being online now.
yes, that's my life too, right? So that's the idea. And I guess this is the life of someone who wants to do something on their own, right? So I mean, you bet you've had the experience before from another type of company that was actually thriving and all of that. So it's like I understand that you're starting from scratch in some aspects, but not from others, right? But it's true that these days I find it essential, even for my own self-expression, to have somehow a voice online. So, and your voice sounds great, you look great, you know your stuff, so you're more than ready to get your YouTube career.
But
Going.
Certling has been great because I, I really like the fact that we're helping individuals. So we've
Mhm.
had, I can't really say to go in details because obviously it's private. But we had, for example, one chap who's doing his refugee status, and he left his religion, and he's asked us to translate his letters, messages from his family with death threats, but horrible things. You know, his mother saying, "If you come back, we will kill you," and these kind of things. And he sent us an email with like just the greatest thanks for the work, and it's really this feeling of it. There was another political refugee we were doing for Belarus, and you know these people are really going through hell. And then there's just I mean, we get really kind emails. We had this Spanish lady, a Colombian lady who lives in Spain, who were trying to get her daughter to university in England. And we, you know, I spent time with her on the phone. My Spanish is now terrible. It used to be much better, but I did my best to explain to her how the system worked. And these people are really recognized because we, you know, you it's not like in the banking and the sector we're working, where my clients who I've been working for over 10 years suddenly brushed me off without a call to say sorry, moving on.
Mhm.
After having dinner and lunch with them, suddenly we got all these people saying big thanks and leaving us amazing reviews, and it's nice. It feels
So
good.
why didn't you, like, you have had this experience in Ecuador, and with a more ecological oriented kind of mindset, right? And saving forests and nature and all of that. So why, and since you didn't have a background in translation or anything like that, why didn't you actually go for something different, or going back to a sales job or whatever, when you felt like the company that you had before
I tried.
was in
I
work?
tried. So
Oh, you tried.
last year, back in October last year, I started applying for jobs,
Mm.
and I applied for a lot of jobs. And I used to get first call, they'd go, okay, what did you reach your sales targets you were given? I was like, no, but you don't understand. I was the managing director, so I don't have, I can't provide you sales targets, but I can provide you with a revenue and show you what we did. And they went, well, we'd like to speak to your manager. I was like, I was running my own company, and it was very scary. I realized that because I've been working for myself for 10 years, anything
Uh-huh.
before this 10 years really did not count.
So you
And
found that it was because you didn't have a, let's say, corporate background, that people kind of expected you to come up with
because
numbers.
I was not an employee.
Hmm.
And obviously when you run your own business, you're a man of many hats. You know, you deal with the marketing, you deal with hiring people, you deal with the accounting, you deal with the sales and meeting clients. But when you go for a job interview, they want you to be good at one thing, right? And they want proof. But how do you provide them proof if you don't have somebody over you to be your reference, or you don't have your commission sheet to show them? Because obviously I'm not going to pay myself commission on the sales for the company. So
Hmm.
it was insanely difficult. And I still had Certling running, and Certling was infancy. It was making not much, and I thought, well, I'm going to tighten my belt. It's going to be difficult. I asked my partner to get back into work. I moved back home so I could work and take care of the children at the same time. And I just went, well, this Certling has to work. It has to work. And these interviews were really putting me down. I felt suddenly very worthless. And I went, this is not fair. I've been running my own company for 10 years. I've made my proof. Why suddenly I feel like I'm not worth for anyone else? I'm not good enough for the employment. So I thought, well, bugger them. So maybe I shouldn't say that. And I'll do my own thing again, and
Hmm.
I will get out of this. So I put all my efforts into Certling, and that's where I am today. Still growing it up. And I want to get back into ecological work, but I
Hmm.
think you need capital. You need money to be able to invest into projects. So I need Certling to grow so I can then start, you know, um, charitable work or get involved in projects. You just need the money. Otherwise, you're just volunteering for someone who decides. There's quite a few projects I really want to get involved with children, with child soldiers in Africa. I spent a bit of time in
Mhm.
Malawi, and I met a few. I also met a lot of children addicted to glue and all the drugs. And I've had a lovely childhood. I've been blessed, living in the countryside, building my little fort in the woods, and seeing children, the age of 8, speaking to me like they're adults. When they speak to you, you really feel you're speaking to someone who's lived horrible experiences. And I would really like to do and bring back childhood to these children. That's something that's really close to my heart. But to do that, you need money. It's a hard truth. And meet other people who are so excited. So you can't do anything. You can't do anything by yourself. Every time I see friends who want to start their own business and they want to go on their own, I go, no, find somebody who's also excited about this project and do it with someone else. Because being on your own, I don't think I would have managed Pilcrow. I don't think I would have managed Certling. You want people who are also very different from you.
Yeah.
I think because if you get somebody who's like you, what's the point? You want different ideas, you want different perspectives on things, and you want people who are good at the things you're terrible at. I'm terrible at many things. I'm insanely,
Fortunately, right?
yes, I'm insanely disorganized. I lose my temper very easily. I kind of charge in things with ball, like a bull, in a china shop. Jerome, for instance, is a lot more calm. And when I tell him about things that really annoy me, he's like, "What does it annoy you? It's really not such a big deal." And I go, "Yeah, actually, it's true." so, and these are really important things.
So
Um,
what's your typical day like? Like someone who's like, you have a new business because it's new, right? And you're at home, you're helping with children, you're growing your business. So what's your typical day like, except for today, because today you're here at least for this hour.
I, I wake up around 5:30, or whenever my son has decided that he wants to wake up and hits me across the face. That's his nice way of waking me up. Go downstairs, get them breakfast. Then we get my daughter ready for school, take her to school, come back here. I put my son in the living room after his breakfast. Usually when he's nice and stuff, he likes to sit down quietly and watch his tablet and plays with his toys. And I try to do as much work as I can. So this is my window until 3:15 when my daughter finishes school. And then I collect her from school, and then it's chaos. I know there's no. I tried, and I know there's no point trying to do any work because it will be Oscar hit me, or he's playing with my toys, and no.
Of course.
So 3:15, and then until 6, my partner comes back from work, and then I get back to work until 8. So I've got my 2 hours of getting back and getting things done. So that's
Mhm.
pretty much it. And I've also got a chat on the website where people can come and ask us questions about immigration and
Mm.
whatnot. And so I get my phone beeping every 5 seconds, even at 1 o'clock in
Wow.
the morning. So I finally got a friend now, Chris, brilliant friends of mine who lives in Colombia. And he deals with the Spanish speakers because we're getting more and more Spanish speakers coming in.
Okay.
So he's covering for me for the evening now.
Hmm. So is your day like strict? We were talking about the fact that both of us are people who, well, because I was justifying, if I not really justifying, but I was commenting on why the podcast is not structured or there's no prepping or anything like that, because that's my personality, right?
Yeah,
So I can focus on something very specific, but it has to be that one thing, and then of course I
yeah.
can focus, right? Or else I wouldn't be able to work in terminology and other high stakes things that I do. But the truth is that as a way of living, I am a person who needs, multiple things happening at the same time and all of that. So do you have like a designated time for marketing because you have to do all of these things, right? So do you have like a designated day or time or moment where you're dedicating to one of the multiple hats
Yeah.
that you need to wear, or is it like as things come to you?
Yeah, well, I've got a to-do list. So every time I
Mm.
get an idea, I've got this pad where I go, this needs to be done. Okay. But when it depends on the mood of the day. So I start the day and
So you are like me.
I get my to-do list and I look at it and I go, what do I feel like doing today? Okay. And I'll be there, write an article about that. Yes, maybe. Do a video. Well, I feel horrible. I don't really feel pretty today, so I might not do
Yes,
that.
recording videos and not feeling in your best day. But if
No.
I did that, I would have never recorded any videos.
Like I was telling you before the recording, I've got 50 hours worth of recording.
I can't believe that, and
I
I
haven't
don't
published
accept that. I don't
anything.
accept that because I
Um,
don't see. I mean, I volunteer, if I can say that, to look at some of that footage just to give you my opinion if you want, but which I wouldn't do to anyone because I already told you I record and just simply post. And then afterwards, I will like, oh,
it's not
but this
bad.
is what I do because
Yeah.
if you overthink, there's no way you're ever, for me at least, I would never publish. And if I actually do 3 or 4 takes, it gets worse.
Yes. Well, because
So that's me.
I really tried to get all the information. So when we started Certling, I had to go and scour every institution, government and private institution, and see what they needed as a certified translation. Because funny enough, if you're in the USA is a really good example. USCIS, so US immigration, is insanely easy. People can certify their own translation, which I thought that was not true, but loads of cases on Reddit of people translating their own birth certificate, signing it, dating it, and putting it to immigration, and it goes through. Um, well, I always advise people not to do that and use a professional translator. But then if you're going to the Massachusetts RMV, which is the kind of the driving license,
Mhm.
their rules are insanely strict. They need and you need to be part of an organization. So we're part of ATA and ATC.
Mhm.
There needs to be a certain letterhead, a certain way of phrasing the certification. Some universities need different universities need different things. So I had to go and I'm working actually I'm working on a kind of a certified translation. How would you call it? We called it kind of the answer to everything. So you go on there and you go, I need for the USA, and then he asks you legal, and then he asks you whatever, and at the end it tells you exactly what type of certified translation you need, because it's so complicated. Every institution seems to make their own rules and their own, and we aim to create, and we did pretty well on that. We created a cover certification letter that covers everyone. So we went to every possible what they want and made a bulletproof cover certification letter that works for the UK, the US, Canada, Ireland, certain institutions. So some of them not yet. We need to do some tweak, but that was the idea. We just want to have the bulletproof cover letter. So we've got registration with the ICO, with anything they needed. We got different phrasing too. So we certified at the top in for UK, and then we got certified in Ireland next to the signature. We got every different certification on this page, and it's been the way of going. This is what you need. Um, Simply, we just want to make simple because I think a lot of people are kind of gaining on this idea that it's overly complicated and messy, and you need to go and speak to an expert who's going to know this and know that. And we thought, well, how about we take all this mess and we just simplify it as and just make it kind of universal in our own way, and make
So
people
you
who want
specialize in English speaking countries, basically.
that we only do into English.
Mm.
So Certling only certifies into English. So we went to all the different English-speaking countries, found what they want as a certified translation and what different organization within their country need, and we made a
Mhm.
bulletproof certified translation kind of cover letter. That was our we.
Any plans for expansion in the future, or do you think that covers already an immense universe
I
of
think that's
people and
pretty.
situations?
I think it's pretty big. It's pretty big. For the moment, actually, what we're looking at doing is doing something different. We were thinking of using the tool we created to extract the text, to make a tool for translators. So I've already spoken to quite a, because I've got really good relationship with all the translators I work with Pilcrow, and then some of them are still messaging me on WhatsApp, um, and I told them that what we created, and they said that's brilliant because they get infographics or a lot of PDF content or images from their clients,
Hmm.
and they could just put it on our system and right away extract the text and be able to translate it in the system. So we're thinking of creating kind of a separate tool that can be used for that. There's another option too for banking. So I'm also in conversation with a French bank. I can't say who, but they need to check IDs, for instance. So if they're opening if a know your client, if an Italian is opening an account, he'd be able to upload his ID, and right away they
Hmm.
would extract the content of that ID, translate it into French, and provide the French banking assistant the ability to check, yes, he hasn't got a criminal record, or yes, he's so we're using kind of the technology we created for Certling, and creating separate tools and maybe moving away from translation. Why not? Becoming a bit more of a tech company. I mean, I suppose that's
Okay, so
where.
you're moving towards tech instead of
So it,
language-oriented
well,
companies. That's what you are now, but in the future.
if you can't beat them, join them. So we got wiped out because of LLMs and AI and machine translation with Pilcrow. And I thought, well, we're still using human translators with Certling. We just used AI in a different way to extract the content and be able to analyze it quickly. And I thought, well, maybe that's the way we need to go. Be more of a tech company, have new ideas, and move around it really.
I see. So what's the near future looking like before we leave? The near future looking like in terms of, okay, so you're trying to develop your tools a bit further so that you can use them for other purposes, right? You are now already within the realm of all the English countries.
What we'd really like to do at the moment with Certling is we realize we get a lot of people who need immigration advice, and
Hmm.
I'm not an immigration lawyer, and I can kind of tell them you should do that and that, but please go and check. But we really want to kind of simplify the immigration side too. So we're wondering if I'm looking at, if anyone's watching this, I'm looking at somebody who's an expert in immigration towards the US, the UK, and who would like to join, and kind of we could create a simplify. And so we simplify the certified translation. Can we simplify the visa process, the immigration process, and give people a bit of peace? Because it's when you're trying to bring your family over, or you're sending your children to school, and etc. It shouldn't be that stressful. It shouldn't be that complicated. And it's true that when I go on the government websites and I'm trying to understand the rules, it is so vague. The explanations are silly, really. And you need to people. That's why people are going on to platforms like Reddit and trying to speak to experts, and they don't have the money to splash £1,000 on an immigration lawyer. And you shouldn't have to pay £1,000 if you're only sending your daughter to high school in the UK. So I'd love to simplify this and find a way of creating a simpler system. Just making people's lives easier, really. Um, I think there's value if there's something complicated. If there's a problem, right, you need a solution. Well, the problem is it's overcomplicated. The solution is simplifying it. Um,
In my past, I have been what you call a visa agent myself. So I definitely know what you're
yeah,
talking about.
I mean, the US paperwork, I've been going through it, and the guidelines on filling up. So I've downloaded the forms and I look at them, and then downloaded the guidelines. They're 30 pages of how to fill up a form. It's incredible.
And
And
everywhere you go, it's like, well, I used to work with consulates and things like that. So it's like everywhere you go, you have to learn a set of rules that are not related to the rules of the previous institution that you have
that's it.
visited, right? So it's very complicated. And I do understand your intentions. And I'm also in that realm, believe it or not, of intentions. So I do get it. It's many things at the same time is work, it's business, but it's also something else, which is to allow people, like you say, to feel less stressed about something that is one of the most stressful processes of their lives. Obviously, we know that. Well, I've been through it, obviously. So I know how it goes, and it's really complicated. You also, your parents, your family kind of
That's
traveling
it. Yes.
around between countries. So we kind of know the
Yes.
hurdles and the complications. And I mean, paperwork is obviously the worst part in all the process because it's something that you cannot really have control over, right? There's so many players involved and so many
Yeah. Uh,
possible problems that can arise just with paperwork or paperwork itself. So it's pretty complicated. So I love that mission, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it more because it's something I'm very interested in too.
yeah, it's very costly too. So
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, um,
Yes, very
so
nice. So we've done everything here. We talked about, your past, your future, your present. We have proposed jobs to people. So actually, I will create a line when posting the episode to see if we can find that person that can help with that kind of information about immigration, UK, US. So that's great. That's a first. But this is what I like about it. It's because we don't control it, it just goes everywhere, and that's what we want. So thank you so much for this, William. This is amazing. I'm definitely going to follow your work. I cannot wait to see what you bring out into the world in the near future. And I'm sure we can have a lot more conversations like this. And like I say, I have a lot of people who have repeatedly come to the podcast. So it's really normal that I do it with the same people 1 year or 2 years after. And I love that, like some sort of a reunion with 3 or 4 people who have something in common. So,
yeah.
with here, because there's no rules, it's like you, I should do this, I should do that, but I feel like doing it this way. No, so I'll do it this other way.
Yeah,
But
well,
as
I'm actually
long
look.
as we do things right and somehow keep things moving so that we
That's
don't
it.
fall.
And you need time for yourself and your family too. It's very
Yes, of course.
important, otherwise you go insane.
That's true.
Burnout is real.
It is real, and we know that. So we need to manage everything, but make sure that we live as people too, right? That's a
Exactly.
fact. Thank you so much. This has
All
been
right, Rita.
amazing. So yeah, here I am to then follow your career as a big YouTube influencer and manage all those things that you do. But in the meantime, well, that's it. This is your sort of debut, right? So you will be featured in the language worker. Well, what can I do? It's humble beginnings, but
All right,
you have to
Rita.
start somewhere. Thank you so much, William. See
Have
you
a great day.
soon.
Bye
You
bye.
too. Bye.